You know, when people talk about the revitalization of Detroit, a lot of focus gets put on Midtown and downtown. But we're here tonight to talk about Detroit's neighborhoods and what happened when this old house came to Detroit to help restore one family's home. And it's not just one story. It really ties into ongoing efforts in Detroit neighborhoods to restore properties and communities that have been long neglected and abandoned. The crew of this old house spent the second half of the season in Detroit, which you can see right here on DPTV, starting in April. But joining me now are the hosts of this old house. They're like rock stars in this room right now. Kevin O'Connor, Tommy Silva, and Richard Trethewey. Also with us here tonight are the homeowners, Frank and Tamiko Polk. Thanks for being here with us. This is great to have you all here together.
The rock stars.
I think what was so telling is when you first all came in, there was hugs, there was catching up, there was how have you guys been, and it really gets to speak to the relationship that you all have formed together. And when you come back and say, all right, now we're ready to talk about what's going to be airing in the project that you worked on, and you guys are all dressed up. There's not a 2x4 in sight here. This is a pretty clean set. What is it like, and I'm going to start with you, about just kind of coming back and saying, look, this project that we did is amazing, and then we're going to be able to share it.
The biggest thing about coming back is remembering when we first got here. I think, I don't want to speak for anybody else, how little I knew about Detroit, how shocked I was at what I saw, and then every week as we returned, how little more we learned, how we met the people, how these folks, Frank and Tamiko, took us into their house. You know, all of a sudden, they're working for us. It's kind of the other way around. What can I get you? And then people started showing up. They literally just started showing up on our job site. And not to take pictures or to get autographs. They said, we want to swing a hammer with you guys. We want this house to be done. We want this story to be told. And so now you come back 10, 12 weeks later, and you're just like, I can't believe what just happened.
All right, this has got to be amazing. So, Frank, what did you tell your friends that, by the way, there's going to be this TV crew, they're going to roll up, they're going to start working on the house? I mean, how did you even explain what was happening?
Oh, it all happened so fast. We just kind of rolled into the project. We were very excited. I couldn't believe it. I think I described it as being a surreal experience, and it's still going to this day. You know, unbelievable.
A lot of people will ask, okay, you guys have never been off the East Coast, and you chose finally to come to Detroit to take the show here. Why Detroit? Tommy, let me ask you, why?
Why Detroit? Because it's a city that's built with beautiful buildings and architects that have just been abandoned. And why not help in that process of bringing these houses back? They're so well-built homes. They're beautifully built by artisans of the early 1900s. The people that took pride in what they're doing to build the houses right. And their houses are built so well that the ones that are abandoned are really standing up to time. If you take a house that's built to the code in a lot of areas of the country, if they were left abandoned, like some of these houses were, they'd be on the ground. They really took pride in what they're doing, and now it's great to be part of that team.
So, Richard, what did you see in some of these neighborhoods when you came in?
Well, taking on Tommy's point, this represented the best level of middle class that's ever existed in America. The car was king. All the Europeans came over with their craftsmanship with brick and with stained glass and with all this beautiful timbered work, so it became this fabulous sort of base study for us. When we first got there, though, I will tell you, it was like there wasn't any sense that we were actually going to get it done. And the one thing I take from this is the spirit that happened, to Kevin's point. People showed up. People came and helped. Everybody had a smile. They wanted to help. It was an amazing thing. We always feel blessed when we go around the country. We go into the local towns. We just felt so warmed, and everybody sort of pulled together. So we wish you all the best.
Frank and Tamika welcomed us into that.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
You know, Tamiko, when we asked, why these guys came here to Detroit, you and Frank, you chose Detroit. You chose to be here. You chose to find a home that was built in the late 1930s that had been abandoned for how many years? 4 years. So you walk into this home. What spoke to you to say, you know what, we're going to put our blood, sweat, and tears and money into this project?
Mainly the stained windows that we had when we first entered the home, the archway, a lot of the plaster detail that was original to the home. It was just a lot of history in that house. Brick house, solid structure. We said, why not?
All right, so I can't imagine that this was an easy project. You guys have already alluded to that. Kevin's laughing already. It was not an easy project. So when you walk in, and Tommy, let me start with you, and you look around, do you kind of categorize how you're going to start first, or do you say this is going to be the worst, so we're going to start here first?
Well, the first thing you got to do is establish what's the issue that's dealing right now that's causing problems, and go after it and attack it. Solve the problem. Water infiltration is usually the big culprit, and there was leaks in the roofs, and Frank got the roof taken care of, but there were leaks in the plumbing, and there was rot in the wall. Well, that's why there was leaks in the plumbing. Yeah, when you take the pipe out, you're supposed to shut the water off, but but that leads to rot, and we had to fix the rot, and just one thing led to another. With a lot of work, we got it taken care of.
So, Kevin, what did you think when you kind of looked around and said, all right, we're on this project now? How important was it for you to establish relationships with Frank and Tamiko and say, all right, we're all in this together now?
Oh, it doesn't happen if we don't have the relationship. I mean, it's their house. They have to invite us back. They've got to be there. All the stuff has to happen while we're away, good or bad. I mean, we were getting phone calls. We would spend 4 or 5 days out here, fix the roof, part of the roof. Frank, how's it doing? It's fine, no problem. The other roof's leaking. Then you have to have, it's their house, At some point, we are working on the place that they're going to call home for them and their family. And they made it easy for us because we knew that they were invested in this. We learned quickly that they could be somewhere else. But they chose here, that house, and for their entire family. So they were there, and the family was there, and that makes all the difference for us.
They put the hard work in. They were there all the time. Frank and Tamika, I mean, they worked hard, and their family and their friends.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It took them 2 episodes, though, to give that beautiful smile.
Were you a little camera shy at first? It must have, I mean, come on, that must have been overwhelming to all of a sudden what was going to be a home reno project turned into a television show and a home reno project.
Everything was unplanned. It just kind of all fell together. I described it as being divine, just the way things just seemed to fall in place. The show talent, these guys came. They, at first, we didn't know what to expect. Is this going to be lights, camera, action, cut, and everybody takes off? They rolled their sleeves up. Kevin's on the roof, getting shingles off. Tommy's doing his thing. They went above and beyond. It was a phenomenal experience. Richard rolled his sleeves up, did demo work, and it was after about the first or second episode that we realized that they were invested, mentally, emotionally, whatnot, and it just became collaborative energy.
It's interesting that you mentioned kind of the emotional investment. Tamiko, let me ask you, I mean, when you're in the middle of this project and you know that this is where you want your family to be, and it can't be easy. And your story is playing out much the same as many homeowners across this area who are in Detroit neighborhoods who are saying, gosh, I want to save this old house. And it is a bear right now, and it's difficult, and it takes money, and it takes a lot of time.
Oh yeah, it was never just the start of it when we entered the home and we saw the peeling paint. I was like, how am I going to get up to the top of that and peel that paint off? I mean, it was just falling off. I mean, we had no clue on how to get that part of that reno done. And we had people that came by that helped us out tremendously with that. It was like a night and day transformation. So
I want to get back to the people who just came by and started helping you out, because sometimes that doesn't usually happen.
Anybody in the room?
Oh, yeah, there's
There's a lot of
Throw
them.
your hands up.
Raise your hands.
If you
if
worked
you
on the
would.
project,
Get
throw your
your
hands up.
hand up.
Oh, I see some hands over there. I love
Get
it.
them up.
Come on,
Put 'em
get 'em
up.
up.
Put
Get 'em
'em
up.
up.
There you go.
Okay, because that usually doesn't happen, that people just say, you know what, I'm just going to kind of step by and start pitching in. Explain that. Explain that for people who are not familiar with
to
that.
the point where they were bringing their kids by, to help us
That's
at
right.
the same time, because they really wanted to help. And that's, to me, shows dedication. It was a just tremendous help to the show itself. So
Does that usually happen to you
Shows the
guys? You
camaraderie
get
of the
people that
city.
usually skip
No.
by and want to...
Well, we don't allow it generally.
No.
I mean,
Yeah, we
it
don't.
sounds kind of weird, but we've got a private homeowner, we've got a construction site, we've got a television show. People do drive by. We say thank you very much. Take a picture maybe. As nice as we can be, but we don't want them to come and help. We're like, we have people for that. But this was a different situation because we were coming back and forth, and we weren't here full time under Tommy's watchful eye. And then all of a sudden we realized we needed the help. And when, like, the third time one of these guys showed up and said, "Can I help?" We're like, "Yeah, now you can." yeah, definitely. And they
to come
brought
back a few
food and they
times.
brought stuff to drink. It was ridiculous. It was like homesteading.
It was totally
it was
amazing.
unbelievable.
So I guess, Tommy, explain that kind of connection when there are other people that are coming and saying, you know what, many hands, light work, but where this is for someone's home who has decided to be here and take something that some people thought maybe wasn't salvageable.
Well, these are all people that love the city, and they want to see it come back. And they want to help because they know the power that we have to our viewers to bring awareness to what can happen to the city. And they wanted to be part of that, bringing Frank and Tamiko's house back to where it was. And they just wanted to be, let's say, I want to help. I want to show people that this is Detroit. We'll do one at a time. Let's bring them back.
It's like being in the foxhole together. There's a sense of we're all in this together, and let's pull together and get through it.
It's always a team effort.
Frank, let me ask you though, because you say one house at a time, and that is a wonderful way to put it, because it really is building a story one at a time in all of these various neighborhoods around the city. But it's not easy. And what would you say to people who are attempting to start renovation like this, or saying, "Gosh, there's guts in there that I know that we can pull something out of," but it's not going to be an easy process?
No, like anything else, one step at a time, one house at a time. As long as you have the right attitude and the right energy and you enter into it, with the right spirit, I think good things happen. They just kind of take a life of their own. So I would say, we've got a lot of work ahead of us as a city. Some things need to go, some things need to be preserved. And everything that needs to be preserved, we are more than capable of doing it. This is a city of grind, hustle, muscle, and we can do it.
It doesn't happen overnight.
No, that's for sure. Tamika, let me ask you, what was the biggest challenge for you in this entire process?
Choices.
Wardrobe.
Picking the product, picking choices.
I'm going to jump in and say this lady worked her butt off. I mean, she did a fantastic job, especially on that mantle.
Yeah.
I came back a week later and I saw this mantle. I said, wow, who stripped the mantle? To me,
Yeah.
absolutely. What do you see it? It's absolutely beautiful.
Would you say that was your favorite piece or your favorite part? Because we talked about stained glass. I mean, you're
this-
looking at some of the moldings.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot.
The moldings, probably the archway that we have in the foyer. It's all plaster and it's kind of difficult to peel the paint out. So that project itself took me probably about a month just to get all the painting peeled out and make sure I preserve the detail work that's in there. So we were able to keep that. So it turned out
It's
really
all
well.
ornamental plaster work. It's not
Yeah.
like a molding that you go in the home center and you buy one. This was done by an artisan, and over years, paint was built up. And she spent many hours scratching the paint out of there.
it would seem to be a lot of research as well, Kevin, because again, you just made the point. You're not going to Home Depot, or you're not going to your corner hardware store and saying, "Hey, just give me a couple pieces here and there." When you're looking at a home of this kind, it's just saying, "Gosh, we're going to rehab it." It's a much bigger process.
We did go down around the block and get some bricks.
Did you?
I didn't know that was a
Is that a
thing.
secret? Hang
I
on.
didn't know that was a thing, but all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we got bricks."
They were calling. They were calling to us.
It was great.
Is this some of the tricks of the trade we're learning here?
We like to dive into the historical aspects. We had folks from the Historical Commission come out. I got the name wrong, but that's who they were to tell us the history. We had some great ways to replicate the details in the house. But when the project is said and done, for us, it's actually not about the historical details. It is about the house for a family. It's not this deep dive into this is from 1910 and the exact replication. It is about getting a family into their house. In this case, a house that was abandoned. In other cases, a house that they dreamed about. So all of that effort to tell the story and to do the work and to preserve this stuff wasn't so much about the history as it was about the Polk family getting in and back to the house. And in this case, telling the story of Detroit and how the city is going to be saved at that one house at a time. People who choose to live in these places, to do the work, and stay in the city.
Richard.
This takes us back to this whole house's roots. 1978, 79, our beginnings were in a house that was abandoned. We haven't had any of the abandoned houses before or since. And back then there was a neighborhood called Dorchester. It had all the same things. It had the great housing stock. There was the local church right there, but everything else was in trouble. And that was our roots. I remember we fixed the house back then for $18,000, and we're thrilled to get 45 back, but that is the roots of this project. And to this day, that one house, 6 Percival Street, just like their house will, sparked the 2 neighbors, and it just went like that. In that neighborhood now, it's one of the best neighborhoods in town. So it'll happen here, one house at a time.
So talk a little bit about that, Frank, in terms of are you a catalyst on your street? Or talk a little bit about what your street is like now, and have people come up to you and saying, hey, I'm thinking about maybe doing a little something here or there, and can you give me a little bit of advice?
Well, we were so busy throughout the summer, I couldn't see next door. And then winter just came upon us, but we did notice, a few people on our block in particular that took great care with their homes. You could tell they had great pride in their homes, and just to see us there doing a renovation and, creating a new bright spot on the block or in the community, they were very grateful and very receptive to what we were doing.
What did some of the neighbors say to you, Tamiko?
I'm just like Frank. We've really been hibernating all winter. We haven't really been out. So he's been more social when it comes to speaking to the neighbors.
But once the show starts to air, they're going to start wearing sunglasses and ascots.
Are you prepared for the fact that people might be doing the slow drive by your house?
they
and
do
with
that.
They're doing that now.
They're
already?
doing it now.
Going ahead
Yeah.
and taking a look. It's interesting because we talk about the one house at a time, and you talk about the various neighborhoods that we have in the city of Detroit, and they're all so unique. And one fix is not going to work for each pocket. Tommy, let me ask you. Talk about how unique neighborhoods can even pick up and learn from what the stories being told here in Detroit, even in other parts of the country.
Well, I think this old house, we specialize in basically old houses. Guess what? We repair them.
That is
we
magic,
rebuild them.
Tommy.
Yeah.
We should write that down.
Write that
That
down.
is a
Take that home
tagline.
with you.
Yes.
I mean, there are so many houses that we've done across the country, and here is a perfect example where you could go in and simply tear them down and start fresh. But we're caretakers of these houses, and these houses are in beautiful condition. Although they don't look like it, they got good bones, and they can be brought back. And we've got to salvage them, we've got to bring them back, take pride in what we're doing, as these homeowners did, and save them for the next generation. That's what we're about.
You can't do what this house, you can't get to where we ended up at this house if we started new.
No.
You couldn't do it. We needed the bones of this house. We needed those details, as beat up and banged up as they were. We never could have gotten to the place where the Polk house is right now if we had started from scratch. We have seen a lot of houses. I would say that we have never seen this many good houses that are empty and ready to go.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable level of craftsmanship.
It's a lot of inspiration, though, too, you're going to be giving to people now by able to watch your
hope so.
story.
We
Hope
hope
so.
so.
So let's talk about some of these details inside the house. What was your favorite thing to work on, Richard?
I don't know, putting in a fabulous bathroom that the original owners would have dreamt about was pretty fun. It had
What materials did you use, or give us some ideas and some hints?
a beautiful shower. It was, I don't know, for me, actually, I should refer back, putting comfort back into that building. We got there, every pipe, most of the wires, most of the furnace was gone, the water heater was gone. So for Tommy, it's, okay, we got to get the building tight. And then you start figuring out, then you got to say, well, we got to now heat it. Now we got to, you start building the important parts of the system. And then you guys finished off the beautiful stained glass artist is here.
Copper gutter, the gutters.
The copper
around.
gutters. I mean, just the stuff that we did there is just, it's all, and it becomes this great mosaic. It comes out beautiful at the end. It was a good party.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, wait, did we have video of that? I hope that
No
makes
video.
the show. No?
Well, I'm surprised you didn't talk about comfort. You put the toilet in.
That's for the other
All right,
show.
this is PBS, folks.
Yes, that's
okay? So Frank, tell me, what were some of your favorite detail that you were able to work on in the house?
Favorite detail? The Fireplace was a good project. To see that come back, because someone painted over some beautiful natural wood, and you knew there was something under there. And once we got to sanding it down and we saw nice grain in the wood, and we never would have imagined once we got to rubbing the stain and on it that it would have came out as nice as it did, with the new Puebic tile surrounding it as well. It was the smallest, biggest transformation, for lack of a better word.
One of the original homeowners, a guy who grew up in the house from childhood all the way up. He was another one who showed up.
No.
Just showed up, and we were talking to him. He told us stories about it was his and his brother's job to polish the fireplace surround. His grandmother loved the fireplace so much that they had to polish this natural wood every Sunday. And he's telling us these stories as we're looking at a surround that's painted white and looks terrible. It looks absolutely fantastic now, and I hope that either Christian or Monet or Justin will polish it every Sunday.
Get to work, right?
Probably Monico. So she just pointed to one of the kids. No, but I mean, to hear someone who grew up in the house, he got choked up telling the story.
The tears in his eyes.
You know, the fact that he did that, it was so beautiful. He saw it go down, and now he came to the wrap party as well. He was there.
Brought pictures.
Brought pictures.
Well, at one point when we were all working on it, I think there was 5 of us working on it at one time. There was a real press towards the end of the project to get the fireplace done. It was just one of the things that was, stuck to the side, and one of the last things we did. So just the moment when I kind of stepped back and looked and saw 4 or 5 of us really putting in elbow grease on this thing, and to see how it turned out,
It's the focal point of
it's
the
a great
room.
thing.
You know, we only have about a minute or so left, and I want to ask each one of you what you would like people to take away from seeing these next 10 episodes here in Detroit. And Tamiko, let me start with you.
That it's a lot of hard work, but it's worth it in the end. To have beautiful, detailed plaster work in a brick home built in 1939, it's original.
Frank, what would you like people to take away?
The fact that, like I said earlier, with positive mindset and determination, that anything's possible.
Richard?
I say one house at a time. Don't give up. Keep it going. Keep one at a time.
With
Tommy.
pride and determination and friends, you can get it done.
This was a house that was rebuilt by the Polks and by the kindness of strangers. And that'll be the formula for every other house that gets done in this great city.
All right, and 2 quick television questions. Are you guys going to write a book or have your own series now? I know you've done TV so much.
Sky's the limit.
We created a monster.
Thanks so much to the Polk family. Richard.